Doug, thank you so much for doing this. What was your read on that one last night for the Maple Leafs and Sunrise?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me on, guys. I don't get to do the big shows that often, so it's kind of a treat, So I appreciate it. And Kiprios is one thing, but you guys are, obviously a different level,
Very true.
Thank you, bud.
And I made a pact coming on this show. I'm not going to say every time I go on Nick's show, I piss somebody off, and I'm not going to do it today. I'm going to be very calm, reserved, and just. But anyway, I enjoyed the game last night. I thought I just listened to you guys. Here's my take on it. Early, I'm thinking, what is going on here? If it's not for Woll, this game's 2 or 3-0, and he stood tall. And I think you guys alluded to it. This kid has come back from missing some time and has been a warrior. He's really looked excellent at times in the net. I mean, I'm blown away by the way he moves in the net, how calm he is. So this is a great lift for the Leafs, when they're having trouble connecting on all cylinders. And, you guys mentioned penalty killing. Yeah, well, he's their number one penalty killer right now, too. So that's the biggest thing I took out of the game last night is if this kid continues with the way they're going, he's going to give them a chance.
Yeah, he certainly has. And on the other side of things, we were talking about their power play. I mean, it's just abysmal, and they've struggled with it for a long time. And there's just far too much talent and offensively minded guys who have had success on the power play their entire lives. What do you make of that? Like, it's almost inexplicable. What are you seeing when you're watching that power play?
Well, first of all, I don't like the 5 forward setup. I know they're trying. In fairness to Craig and Savard, they're trying everything they can to try to make this work. So give them credit for at least trying. I just don't like it. I mean, your most lethal guy, in my is Matthews. They've got last night he was a little bit better, but come on, guys, he's not even close to where he should be. Not even close. And he last night was a little better. So let's hope that continues. But to me, your most lethal guy is out at the point. And that's not, I mean, yeah, he's got the great shot. Yeah, he can get it through. But this guy needs to be down low or on the flank, whatever you guys, the fancy terms you guys use nowadays. I think he's got to be there. And they've got to find another top 6 forward, or they've got to find a defenseman that can play the power play. And, Morgan has tried for a number of years, and it's stumbled, whereas he was pretty good a few years ago. But I hate to bring up Marner, but he's a monumental loss for this hockey team, boys, for transporting the puck, for getting the puck to Matthews in prime shooting positions. It's a devastating loss for Matthews. It really is. But he's got to get over it, and he's got to get his game going. But to me, him on the point in the power play, I don't like it. Maybe it'll work for them, but we'll see.
It's interesting, too, because the Leafs, first time in like a month, they've won back-to-back games. And I'm trying to put, stock or contextualize this victory because, again, no qualifiers, but the Panthers severely banged up them before the game. They find out Carter Verhaeghe, wife, having a kid, so he doesn't play in that game. But how much stock should we put in that game, that Maple Leafs victory against the Florida Panthers, moving on to Carolina here?
Well, you don't care because they won. I mean, I was impressed with the big win in Pittsburgh and to go in last night and win a game when the pressure's on to win right now on both teams. Yeah, the Panthers were not very good at times. Yeah, they're banged up, but the Leafs need Tanev back so bad so they can get McCabe and Tanev back together as a shutdown pair. So they're also banged up. So look, when they can win games with missing with Carlo out, not that Carlo's been very good, but he's capable of coming in and being better than what they have. Stecher's been a nice pickup, but long term, I think he'll start to falter. I hope not, because he's showing some pizzazz and he's showing some jump. And so I think you've got to say, yeah, the Panthers are beat up. Yeah, they haven't been very good. But that was a desperation game for the Panthers last night too, guys, because they're in the same boat as the Leafs. And the fact that their third line came alive, I love seeing Lawton score that goal late with a real nice play to salt it away. So I think that you just take it as, if you're Berube and company, you take it as a positive. 2 games, and they battled, and full marks for that. Some guys scored that they need to chip in, whether they're 15 goal scorers or not. They've got to chip in at critical times and help alleviate the Matthews dilemma right now until he gets it going, which I suspect he will. So I took it as a positive last night.
Yeah, and obviously they're desperately in need of that. But like overall with this season, what you've seen, do you think they can crawl out of this and be in, come into the trade deadline and look back at October, November and say, wow, like what a skid, glad that's over? Or do you think they're going to be scratching and clawing the rest of the season here?
This time last year, we had the same discussion, not with you guys, but with Nick and company about the Edmonton Oilers, a disaster. I mean, where they were at that time. The difference is they've got Draisaitl and McDavid. And you knew that they were going to get it going and find a way to win and get back into the race. Right now with Matthews, you got to believe he's going to get it going. You got to believe they're going to get healthy. And you love Woll. So I think they can crawl back in it for sure. I see that the chance of getting in the playoffs 11 or 12%, but I think they can crawl back in it. I really do.
Do you believe in Craig Berube?
I'm not saying they're very good, but I'm saying they can crawl back in it.
Yeah, that's fair. I don't know what this team is just yet. I need them to string a bunch of games together. But I was just asking about Craig Berube. There's been a lot of buzz. Obviously, 2 wins will change that for now. But do you believe in his message, what he's selling here?
Look, to me, I'm not buying that Craig's the problem. I really don't. I mean, I think he's a good coach. Do I think he's a great coach? Probably not, but he's a good coach. And I would love to see unbelievable pressure put on these players. That Treliving, Pelly, whoever's the real boss, come out and say, we're not going to do anything, and you guys better get it going. And I watched that penalty kill or that power play last night that gave Florida a chance to get back in the game with a few minutes left in the game. I mean, horrendous play by all your best players on the team. Make that play. That's a midget, or what do you guys call it now? U15, U16. That's a U16 play where they're puck chasing, and it really could have been a turning point. So I would love to see the pressure put squarely on the guys, and I think Craig's trying to do that.
And you mentioned the power play there. To swing back to it, like Savard was brought in here from Calgary with someone was kind of scratching their heads about that. A lot of the market as well. Zero success at all. Do you think making a move with their power play coach would do anything to change the outcome of these lost power plays?
Yeah, it's hard to comment when you really don't know what they're trying to accomplish. But I wouldn't hesitate if it doesn't get going. You've got to make a change. I don't mean fire Savard. I happen to know him and I like him as a kid. I worked with him at Sportsnet. But yeah, you have to do. I mean, we see it in the NFL all the time. You see it in college football. Enough of this offensive coordinator. We got to fix this. So either the head coach takes it over or you work around it. You figure it out. But you can't let it be the problem for your hockey team for much longer. And let's not kid ourselves. The power play makes your stars feel better if they're being successful. One thing that would make Matthews feel better if he's banged up or whatever's going on with him, whether it's in his head or it's in his body, getting the power play going makes the stars feel a lot better. And I think it's really critical that they've got to get this going somehow, some way. And I heard you guys say they've had guys running it, but it's not working yet.
Oh, there's been so many combinations. Sorry to interrupt there, Doug, but like 10 for 65 is pretty polarizing when you consider some of the talent on that blue line. And you're so right. You can't just sit there and wait for this to figure itself out, because we're at a point where there's urgency. You got to win some games. The power play certainly helps with that. But I want you to play the role of GM Brad Treliving. What would you do with this roster right now?
I thought so. Now you're trying to get me to piss people off, eh?
Pretty much, yeah.
You know what? I really deep down, and look, this is so challenging to do when you've got to find pieces. It really, as a GM, when you're sitting there and you know exactly what's wrong with your team, but how do you fix it? A top six forward, a top four defenseman, a guy that can be a top four defenseman, can be a power play guy, a guy down low that can help the power play. How do you find them? That's what you're up against. Those type of moves have to be made in the off season. They're really tough to make in season. You can do a little bit at the trade deadline, but right now is not an easy time. I am praying for their sake that Cowan keeps developing and that maybe he can move into being a more important player than you would expect for a young guy. I like lots of things I'm seeing with him. But he's got the heart of a lion, this kid. I've talked to the Knights about him. I've talked to people about him in the league. This kid has got a great reputation. And can he continually to take strides? Can Nyes continue to take strides and be the horse you want him to be? And maybe that is what they need as much as trying to find somebody. If some internal guys can take a step. And I look at Nyes and Cowan as two guys that have the potential to really take a step even further than
The other
that.
thing too is there's not many assets out there, right? Like to deal if
100%.
you want to improve the roster. But I was going to ask you. I mean, you could probably say 3 or 4 teams that'd be open to making a move right now: Vancouver, Nashville, Calgary. Does anybody stand out from any of those teams that you think could help the Leafs? The Canucks are open for business, that's for sure.
Yeah, you know what? I'm sure there are. I haven't really looked close enough, but Brad and Craig will have a better feel, obviously, for what they need and what's out there and what you can afford to do. And guys, making trades is tough. It is really tough. I mean, I think back. Actually, I'm working on a new book that's going to come out next fall, but a lot of it's about it's a day in the life of an NHL GM. And I'm going through chapters here recently, and I'm thinking, oh man, is it pressure to pull the trigger? Is it pressure to find the right fits? Is it team construction? Is the number one job of a general manager? That's his number one job, constructing the team properly to have a chance to win, and it's the toughest part of the job. So
yeah, you're
good luck
telling
to
me.
them.
I mean, there's been a lot of heat in this market, a lot of talk about the Carlo trade, right? I mean, that's what you got to live with as a GM on a daily basis, right?
Well, those are, and yet everybody was raving about it in the spring. Everybody said, oh, we need
Exactly.
Carlo. Carlo's a great fit. We needed that defenseman. We need this guy with Riley. We got to do this. And I'm looking at it at the time, and I'm, because I've been in the chair and I was around the league for 25 years, and I'm thinking, ooh, those are tough deals when you're throwing away top prospects when your cupboard is kind of bare. But Brad didn't have a choice. They're trying to, and look, guys, they were one game away from knocking Florida out. If that would have happened, we'd be talking differently today.
Doug, it's been a weird time with this team, just to wrap. Having said all that, in general, the East has been just a cluster of teams right now. There's no team really standing out right now outside of maybe a couple. But what's a realistic expectation for you over the next month or so for the Maple Leafs to head into the 2026 sort of year and January? Like, what would your mentality be as a GM and coach right now?
Well, you'd be sitting there today saying the number one most important, the two most important guys on our team right now that we've got to make sure they stay at the level they're at or get better is Woll and Matthews. If Woll keeps going the way he's going and Stolarz comes back and he can be a good solid guy with them like they were last year, and that Matthews gets out of this funk, because that's would scare the living daylights out of me, because I'm watching him and I know he was a little better last night, but he's not even close to where he was the last couple of years. Not even remotely close. So internally, they've got to get these things going, and even Willie's got to be better. I know he's a nonchalant guy. I know he's big-time talent, but even he has got to be better. Tavares has got to keep it going, which is a lot to ask because he's been that good. So the pressure's on. The pressure's squarely on these players.
Make sure to check out more of our content right here on the Leafs Nation YouTube page. We got long-form interviews, we got clips, we got epic rants by Jay Rosehill. We simply have it all. And don't forget, you can find out much more at theleafsnation.com. Thanks so much for watching.